Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziel.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. I'm your host, Nick Koziel, and joining me today is Sean Lewis from SLC Advisory Group. So happy to have you on the show. We were talking off air about how it's been way overdue, my friend. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Nick. It's very nice to be here.
Well, that's great. It's great to have you. And Sean, why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about your business, a little bit about you and what you do.
Business is SLC Advisory Group. We're sort of general business advisors, but we are growth architects for your business. We sort of link your people plans, your financial plans, and your processes all together to come up with one grand vision for how you can move forward and go from one level to the next.
That sounds amazing. Sounds terrific. How do you start with something like that, right? How do you identify clients? How, what's your sweet spot? What's the first steps to being advised by SLC?
I think the first step is to realize that you would like some outside help, that the people within the business either need to have other skills or other perspectives brought in. Once we decide that there is something that can be worked on, that I can lend an assistance to, we start assessing what you've built so far and find out what the success that you're looking for is. And we start building around what you're currently doing towards that, sort of do more of what's going well, sort of eliminate what's not going well. We try to make sure that all of the plans that you have are really talking to each other in the best way possible.
And I guess you do that through a series of meetings and things like that, or what's the process with what would a business person have to expect, engaging with you?
First is a series of conversations, right? We just sit down and let's talk about what you'd like to build. What are the challenges that you're having? Why aren't you able to just do this with the current staffing that you have? If you have more than one staff, if you're a solopreneur, what is it that you'd like to bolt on that you don't have already? And then we start looking at what your systems are. What are your challenges? What are the top 3 things that are keeping you up at night, as a cliche would be, or the things that are sort of you keep running up against time and again that you haven't been able to solve? Sometimes it's really just a matter of I've grown and now I don't even know where to begin. So let's talk about what some certain standard growth challenges might be. I think that no matter what, there's a certain number of steps that a business owner has to take once they go from being a solopreneur to being, let's say, a larger business, a mom and pop to, let's say, a small to medium business type of perspective on how we run a business. And I think that while every business sells something different, the process of growing a business has to be the same. We start, as soon as we hire the right person, we start building our cultures. As soon as we start generating more and more sales, our finances become more complex and we have to get our bookkeeping and our financial management in order. And as we grow across, our marketing has to get bigger and so on and so forth. So all of these little strategies of putting our people in place, putting our business plans in place and making sure that we're able to grow our business at the same pace that we can grow the rest of the foundation of our business has to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's like anything that grows, right? It's a different way that thing is going to fit in the future. And as you grow, you need to kind of move things around in order to make that fit right. So we need people like you for sure. Because sometimes when, I'm a bit of a solopreneur myself with the podcast and some of the consulting and things that I do, and I get inside my own head and can't kind of get out. So a lot of times you need that outside perspective to see how things fit. So that's really cool. I was just talking to another business that I should refer you over to, who was talking about just that, trying to kind of pull themselves into a space where they can actually think critically about what their business is doing, and figure out what's the best next steps.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, is there a simple, do you have a simple system that you kind of put into place? Are there tools that the trade that you always seem to use with your clients to kind of get the things going?
There are certain similar things that I like to have in place. I like to make sure that we build sort of a business model around what that business does. That way we can generate how, if we manipulate things, we can either grow in one area, what that's going to have an effect on capacity. And once we have an idea of what's going to be effective capacity, how do we plan the finances? What are we looking for in a person, right? So what the business model does will generate how we're going to link that progress towards that person's, I guess, definition of success, if you want to call it that. That's another cliche, right? But essentially, what we want to get out of it are the things that we're doing going to be adding towards that or taking away? Are they definitely something that needs to be a part of that? Or are they just a nice distraction? Is it money that's going to be well spent? Is it going to be money that may be spent, but is not going to be in the best places possible?
Right. Right. So if I own a business and I'm looking at things and figuring out, okay, maybe it's time for me to kind of reevaluate where I'm at. Like, what are some good indicators that I need to have that conversation with you?
Are you happy with the business as it is, first and foremost? Do you want to go to work in the morning? If you don't want to go to work at your own business, things have to change, right? If you're very happy, but you just want more of something, then you can do something incrementally. If you need to make a big leap, then you have to make big changes. So the question is, what is it that you want to change first and foremost, right? What is the first thing that is going to start making you happier with the business that you have today?
Yeah, I think that that's important, being happy and going to work. And I know that's something you really concentrate on, and, being in love with your business and being able to come every day with a big smile on your face, because it is going to go forward no matter if you're a solopreneur or own a business that employs, a bunch of people. That attitude that you're bringing in is going to get put somewhere, whether it's on your clients, whether it's on your staff, or all of them, or just in your overall attitude. So that's a great indicator. I think that that's important. So are you happy with what you're doing? What kind of things do you want to, change to make yourself happy? That's where you kind of come in and help out. Cool. Very cool. Are there sizes of businesses that you typically kind of work with? Is there a sweet spot for your advisory group, or does that not really matter? It's just a different kind of set of
No, I
principles.
don't think it matters in the size, let's say, of revenues. It depends on at what point does it make sense for you to have somebody that's fractional, like me, coming in on a part-time basis, or do you really need to have someone that's dedicated?
Mhm.
What I like to do is, and I think that there's let's say a time span where I'm useful, right? Let's say 2 years.
Mhm.
And I just use that as just an example. By the end of those 2 years, hopefully, if we've done all of our planning correctly, you've identified a person that I'm going to train, whether it's internal or we'll have to bring in, that I will impart all of the things that need to be happening around the finance or the operation side of things, that I will leave and leave this person in my place. I will train my replacement as we go along. Ideally, your business will grow to the point where I should be, I meaning the role should be in your business full time. If
Mhm.
your business is just let's say you're not looking to grow an empire, so to speak, and this is the kind of business that I want to support the lifestyle that I want, and you
Mhm.
are perfectly happy in having an outside help be part of that whole journey, that too. But
Yeah.
it is with a goal, depending upon what your end result is going to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I always liked when I was consulting, that trying to give that opportunity, like the kind of like teach a man to fish principle, right? So like I wanted to get them to the point where they could kind of do all that on their own. So they didn't really need me anymore, right? But also I had clients where they wanted me to run the social media. They wanted me to run the things, right? So it's great to be flexible in that regard. And keeps your lights on too, right?
Right.
Having to come back. But I think there's a lot of credit around businesses that acknowledge that there's opportunity for you to kind of do that on your own once we get those systems in place, because it's proof of the work that you're doing, that it works, right?
Exactly. It's in vogue now that good leaders will grow great leaders behind them, so that when they leave, those people come up, right? It's always about succession planning for your
Right.
role.
Yeah, I always thought that was funny, like about companies trying to like keep people in positions and stuff like that, that maybe they've outgrown, because they're going to get unhappy. They're going to leave, right? So why not develop them, to develop the leaders of tomorrow to kind of take over those positions? And if they do move on to something else, it's because you prepped them up and you should be happy for that, right? But I think that, again, having an organization, a business like yourself, come in and be able to kind of look at that stuff more constructively, on a business sense, and pulling some of the emotion out of it too, is also important.
So you bring up a really good point, and that's sort of like, how do I retain my employees, right?
Right.
And I've always believed and put into practice that if you can show your employees a future at the company, they will stay, right? A
Right.
positive future, right? And you provide them with the environment that is, conducive to their wanting to stay, of course. But
Yeah.
part of that path is growth, right? And just because someone's a great technician doesn't make them a great leader.
Hmm.
But if you put them and start far enough in advance, knowing that this person exhibits the qualities of skillmanship, skill personship, but not necessarily the wisdom of leadership yet, you can start early enough to start growing the wisdoms that need to be for leadership, not just management, right?
Yeah.
So you bring up a very good point.
Yeah, no, I really think that is important, and you also bring up a really good point in regards to like training those employees, but also understanding that jobs change over time as the company grows, right? So like a person that's like in HR that's running certain processes, as you expand, there's more added onto that. There's more things you have to worry about, and they might not be in their wheelhouse. So being able to look forward not only with just leadership, but also with training them for, certifications or other things that they may need to handle in the future as your business grows is just something that, not every business owner thinks about.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. And you talk about the pace at which business is changing. And I think we all read a lot of books, right? We always trying to keep up with the latest and greatest in business management or business
Yeah.
leadership. But the people around us who are being led are changing. So I think it's more about the principles that we learn on how we want to run businesses than the actual implementations. Like, what are these techniques that are good now?
Right.
I think this whole great resignation or the great reshuffle, however you want to call this, has really shown big business that the people themselves, the people that power our businesses, want different things. So we can't
Mhm.
take management principles that have been evolving over 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, right? Because even the ones in the 2000s are no longer valid,
Yeah.
right? People wanted to have certain flexibilities. Now it's about remote work, but we didn't want to do that in the past. So now we're
Mhm.
always changing what our management and leadership principles, I shouldn't say principles, but implementations
Yeah.
need to be, principles remain the same, right? How do we treat people well? Do we make sure that we've got a good balance between process and people and finances? And all those things are always staying in balance.
Yeah, no, I've seen some correlation also because my background has been in fundraising for a lot of years, right? So we're still trying to stick to old methods of fundraising from 10, 15, even 30 years ago, that work time and time again, but based on principles of a world that doesn't really exist anymore, right? So it's important not only for your business to change internally, but also with the external factors that you're talking about too. So like, how do people want to work? Do they want to work remotely? Is hybrid an option? Are they more productive? Do you delve into that kind of research, and do you look at that kind of, stuff when you're, analyzing business?
Absolutely. It's all about what the role can accommodate, right? There has to be a reality of what the mothership of the business needs, right? So we don't necessarily look at what the person, any individual needs, right? So for example, if the mothership needs people to be on site, then the
Mhm.
work has to be shaped around that. So the
Right.
people who are coming into that want to have that type of thing. If the business can accommodate remote workers, then we try to find the best way to do that. Management and how we're going to manage remote people is going to be about the personality and the ability of that manager to be able to morph and be able to accommodate all of the different things that would be required of a remote management position.
Mhm.
But essentially, you still want to keep people happy, engaged. Are they productive? What are the tools that you need to provide them? And what are the challenges, the barriers to their success that you need to remove as a leader, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying. I said yes and then no. I agree with what you're saying completely. Because like, and that is leadership change sometimes from the top down, right? Or a lot of time, most of the time from the top down, you might have to adjust your leadership style to accommodate certain things to make your business more successful.
Absolutely. A good leader will adjust his conversation style, his leadership style for the person that he's leading at that moment. Somebody who's wild and gregarious, you're going to want to be high and energetic. Somebody who's very calm and steadfast, you're probably going to want to approach that person with a conversational style that's calm and steadfast. You got to match the energy level, vocabulary, all of these things with the individuals that you're talking with. That's really good leadership. That way you can connect with the person. Again, making a good fit between the person being managed and the person that's managing or leading.
Yeah, awesome points. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I wanted to ask you, based on you've had a lot of different experiences working with a lot of different businesses and helping them kind of find their right path, right? Can you tell us maybe a couple, anecdotal stories or something about like really great moments where like, you were very impactful in changing things?
Sure. I'll give one of the most recent examples just because that sort of came up in a recent conversation. A
Sure.
business that I had been working with, there was an individual that I've been working with over a period of time. The company changed, and some new people came in. And as a result of the work that I had done, the person that I was mentoring wound up being elevated in a position and being incorporated into a different team that she had really, really wanted to become because of just the things that she had not been doing before. Now she was able to do as a result of the work that we had done together. She progressed in life in a big leap that she never thought that she would be able to make in the past. So that was a big impact on that person. And also the company got somebody that they needed without having to go look for it or train for it up. It was already there.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's a good example of just sort of mentoring somebody and putting them in a position where they can contribute in greater ways than what they had originally expected.
So you're a little bit of everything. You're kind of like a coach, a mentor, business evaluator, you're everything. It's the whole package.
It's like it miles wide, I always say. I'm only maybe a couple miles deep, so I'm not going to be able to generate answers that are very specific in, let's say, a vertical, right? I'm not a great salesperson. I'm not going to give you your best sales techniques or your marketing, but I know how your marketing plan might affect some part of your financial plan or your business development plan. I'm broad enough that I can see linkages between different things, and then coalesce those into a cohesive plan, so to speak.
Awesome. Awesome. So Sean, I know that there's other passions that you have, and one of the things that always drew me to you is your love of music. We're involved in a video networking group, and it just you tie a lot of things that about your personal life kind of into your business, into your approach, and I just love that. Can you share a little bit about like why you do that, and why how you see success in that, and all that kind of stuff?
I think that someone's wisdom, no matter what that wisdom is a culmination of all the different things that we've brought together, right? So what makes me different from any other business consultant is simply the way that I grew my wisdom, right? The things that sort of contributed to what my values are, what I think is good, what I think is not good, what my philosophies of running a good business are. Music for me was my first love. It was also my first business, right? I mean, it's growing a band from scratch and actually having it go around and tour the East Coast sort of thing it's a business in and of itself. It's a love. But the things that I learned in having to be in part of a team of a band are things that I use all the time in applying how I approach teams and businesses, right?
Yeah.
What makes somebody motivated? What is a good product? What does collaboration mean? What does criticism mean? What does trying to create a passionate listener, right? What's your customer? All of those things sort of happen within the music business that I sort of bring forward towards my approach to corporate life, so to speak.
Now,
That's one.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I don't have nearly as much experience as even you, but out of the experience that I have had with music and understanding being prepared is like, you have to be prepared for anything in music, right? You have to be prepared for that amp that breaks down, the string that's in the middle of like, a set breaking, or, what happens when you show up at the venue and it's locked and you can't get in. All those different things. And when you think about it, like having someone who's been, successful or even just been in the music industry at all has really prepared them to do kind of the work that you're doing, because it's expecting the unexpected, and you're sort of like a MacGyver of all situations.
It is. It's exactly what it is. It's grace under pressure. And how did you learn that grace to be, right? There's what's nice about, I think, the music business is also the personalities that are involved. So you get to learn patience to deal with all types of individuals that may come in and out of both the crowd as well as inside your own band.
Yeah. 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 I'm kind of re-engaging back into that world a little bit with a band down in Rochester that does nonprofit work, and they play a different gig for a different nonprofit every month. And it's just interesting, the personalities, and they're going through changes because they've got new members coming in. So it kind of all again relates back to business. And the reason I bring it up is because I see the joy in like the work that you do. Every time we meet, you introduce me to something new, which I think is also important. Because like I'm not a client currently of yours, and but what I will refer people to you, and I definitely would consider you when I need that, right? Because of the personality and the free nuggets of knowledge that you always share. So appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. There's no sense in holding on to knowledge, right? I mean, the idea is that we're sort of building community together, right? There's that. I was part of BNI a long time ago, and they have this really great saying, givers gain. And really it is about, if you share something of yourself, it will come back to you in a pay it forward type of situation, right?
Right.
It's a good philosophy, right? If you give of yourself, you will get back. I always tell my kids, if you want a good friend, you have to be a good friend, right? And it's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
business is relationships. So how do we best develop our relationships? And we share. We share ourselves, we share our personalities, we share our knowledge, we share our things, right? We share our
Yeah.
money, we share, right?
No, I think that's great. It's a great philosophy to live by. And, people like yourself, I think really do get awesome clients and awesome experiences and referrals because of the way that you approach things. And that's definitely something from BNI that, I never was officially a member, but that was something that like I really liked about when I was visiting, that the sharing part, because that's part of me too. I like doing that. I like connecting people. I like being able to do that. So very, very cool. So what else do you do? We got the business, we got, your love of music. Are you still involved with music at all on any level, playing
I am.
anywhere?
I love music. That will always be a part of my soul. I always think that music is life. I am an avid listener, and now that my daughter is introducing me to new and modern music, let's say, my ears have expanded into what's going on today that is just as good as the stuff that I grew up on, and even better produced, and I would say even better sounding in some cases audio wise, right?
Yeah.
So I'm loving music all the time. um Other than that, I like to ride bikes. I wouldn't say I'm an avid mountain biker, but I enjoy it very much, and I like to keep my bones in the places where they belong. So I'm starting to realize that maybe some of the trails that I go on don't belong. I think
You got to go back down to medium level instead of expert gauntlet. I didn't know you could go down a 90-degree hill. Like I just have this picture of you like doing the wheelie down the little rocks.
not
That's awesome.
anymore.
No. Did you used to skateboard when you were a kid at all?
No, I was not a
No.
skateboarder. In fact, I
Yeah.
really wasn't very athletic when I was growing up at all. I ran track a little bit growing up, but nothing really major.
I don't know. I had that mental picture after you said mountain biking. Maybe you were a skater. That's pretty cool. I tried. I failed. Like I had friends that could do amazing things on a skateboard, and I just got to kind of watch in awe.
No,
So,
like anything that you can do really, really well as a talent, and I can appreciate that.
but I think yeah, you're right. Music, also to get back to that, I kind of cut you off, but like to get back to that, like, I think of like, songs that are covered over and over again, right? That artists bring, a new perspective to, or a new twist on, and like a different style are really amazing. And it's funny because I remember sitting and listening to, I don't even know what the song was, but my daughter's like singing along with this song that, one of my favorite bands covered. And then I'm like, well, actually that was like, like a cover of a cover of a cover. Um, so it's just so cool to be able to experience music, in a different genre, a different era, and then also have that share that with your daughter. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to see her pick up a guitar. It's also nice to go watch concerts and go on a road trip. It's sort of recreate the youth that we sort of grew up with, and then impart that onto your kids. And then you can see it through fresh eyes, and then relive those experiences again with those initial feelings again, right? Because as
Yeah.
we grow older, I think we get jaded, right? We get burned out on things, or we don't appreciate them through the same eyes that we did when they were fresh. They lose their magic. When
Hmm.
you now impart these things onto our kids, they come back with fresh eyes, and you can relive that magic again. It's
Yeah.
just wonderful.
Yeah, no, I see that. Like, it's kind of like the holidays when you see the magic in their eyes and stuff like that, and you go, well, where was that? Where's that for me now, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, but you made me think of something else. My son went, his teacher brings in her violin and plays music for them, which I think is a really great approach. Elementary education, and she's her teacher, just bringing in violin, playing different things, and she asks for suggested songs or suggested groups to kind of learn so she can come in and do it next. So my son, of course, suggests Smashing Pumpkins. She's like, I don't think that's appropriate, or I know any. So, oh, I'm like, tell her to play Melancholy and Infinite Sadness. That one's nice. She'll like that. Or
I'm
Tonight
sure
Tonight.
there's some example of someone on YouTube doing it.
Yeah,
Just to learn from YouTube.
yeah.
Some amazing mashups on YouTube for me.
Oh yeah, for
Ama-
sure. So I know we kind of wandered away from the business, and I do want to get back to that, but I do have one more question about music for you. Like, so
Mm.
you're talking about you're really getting into different genres and stuff now. What is some music that you're listening to right now? What really is motivating you?
Think electronica, I think, has started to really move me. I wound up getting into, so Daft Punk was that album Random Access Memories, sort of just the way it was produced,
Mhm.
something that just the sound, it was just incredible. And it's like, okay, man, let me follow through that. So I then backtrack into like bands like Air. I'll go back and get maybe the soundtrack to the movie Tron, or now I'm going into maybe back to Peter Gabriel's Passion, for example, right? That's
Mhm.
so following that line, I'll have a season of electronica for a little while, and then I'm just gonna exhaust that thread until I'm like, okay, well, now it's time to move back to samba or jazz or bop or 70s rock and roll or whatever the case might be. But I do things in like phases. Like I
Yeah,
in this mode, I'll continue to listen to that until I exhaust, and then my mood changes, and then I'll try something else.
that's great. It's great. So going back into the business world of things, like music is very much like a business. It changes over time, and sometimes people, you know, are not in the mood for it, right? So again, that's kind of a place for you to kind of step in and help people adjust the mood. Do you use music with your clients?
No, I haven't used music in I sometimes I'll quote, a song lyric or something like that. It's like "Wasted on the Way" is always a good one from Crosby, Stills and Nash, because it talks about the grind and how do you
Mm.
sort of go beyond the day-to-day rat race, right? It's in vogue now to talk about hustle culture and things like that, and that's a good song
Yeah,
that sort of really talked about, you know, moving beyond hustle culture and leaving it, right?
yeah. No, I think that's great to kind of bring in lessons that way too. Awesome. So kind of you've talked a little bit about what makes you set your business apart from other businesses and competitors. I would love to hear just a little bit more about why you know, people should choose you, or what sets you apart. What makes you different from other businesses?
I think that the way that I grew up in business, having solid roles in both operations and finance, I'm able to combine the two together. So I didn't come just from an accounting degree, I didn't, or an accounting perspective. I didn't come just from an operations perspective. I had both of those things combined. So I can see both sides of the story. When we save money, what does it sort of have an effect on the bench? If I affect something on the bench, really, what does it have an effect on the money? And I can see those two relationships maybe more clearer than somebody else that may only have one side of the experience. I'm not knocking either side of those things. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that for me as a generalist, to have that type of platform to work from might be a better fit for somebody looking to coalesce their strategies rather than find something specific within the vertical of a particular strategy or a particular challenge or a problem. I'm certainly not going to have as much data analytics experience as somebody who specializes in that, but I can
Mhm.
certainly apply that data into operations that I see, and then also on the finance side. So I might be able to coalesce three different types of subjects under one specific challenge, where somebody might be looking to say, I need to know what to do with this specific part of data. That's going to be a specialist. So
Yeah.
it's all about fit, right? And then my personality might be better for somebody than another's. There's lots of great people like me, and
Mhm.
there's lots of fantastic businesses that need help. The question is matching that type of business with their problem, with the right personality and the fit and the connection that I can make with you and or the key people that you need me to be working with.
No, that's awesome. I think it's great. I think you're spot on. Like, being a generalist is important. To being able to tell both, understand both sides is important. Because that relationship is built up over time, and then also when you get into the nitty gritty personalities between, the different departments, I kind of go back to, like, what I know in the fundraising world. So if you take, in higher ed, you have fundraising and then you have alumni engagement. When they work well together, when they understand the importance of engaging and like using, experiences and those relationships will bring the money, you bring in a lot of fundraising. When they're not talking and when they're actually working against each other, that's when you run into a lot of issues. You run into a lot of turnover, and you find a disengaged client base, right? So I think that you're spot on, like being able to understand those two things and being able to set up a business to show equal importance to both, and what give and take happens is super important.
Yeah, I think the example that you use, it really will take somebody who is able to find the language to elicit compromise from both sides of that equation, right? So the person that's going to be the best fit is somebody that can connect with both sides of that issue, find the language that finds commonality, and can breed compromise so that everybody gets what they need in some type of win-win situation.
Great. So what's next for you and for your business? Where do you see you guys, going in the next couple years?
I think it's just doing more of the same. I think I'm in the process of building another set of, I guess, bolt-on services, right, from the bookkeeping side of things, because I think that what I do lends itself to, I can do far better if we get people's financials in orders. There's only so much you can do if we don't have great visibility on the numbers. I come at things from the CFO perspective because I think that the maxim, the numbers tell the story of your business, is very valid. There's lots of things that we can do on the side of just the operations and the people side that don't necessarily involve the finances, but we can do far more. We can do, I guess, what's the word? I think we can delve far better into the problems that we're trying to solve if we have really good visibility on the numbers and what we can and cannot invest in.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I love talking to you, and I also love reading your posts, like on LinkedIn and other places, and your videos and things like that, because you kind of have this great ability to tell a story. You can have your audience and simple people like me better understand where you're coming from and the importance of these things like the numbers and stuff like that when you tell your stories, through your social media posts, through your videos, and through an answer just like that. And I did want to mention that because I think my listeners really do need to connect with you, not only for business, but again, going back to something you said earlier, your sharing of knowledge and your sharing of, story and music and everything helps a person grow as a business person, right? It helps grow as a human. And I look forward to your posts because I know I'm going to learn something. Yeah, you're welcome. And I just wanted to ask you, where do those inspirational things come from?
From talking with people just like you. I try to have as many conversations with as many people as possible, and everybody gives me ideas, challenges, ideas that I might have. I might propose an idea, and that conversation might lead into another conversation or an idea that I hadn't uncovered before. There are a number of people that I follow, like Colonel Sudhir Mukherjee, who also has a great business advisory practice. Then he does a lot of coaching also, and we bounce ideas off of each other a lot. There are a number of individuals that I come across within my daily life who are either through the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership or other businesses in the community, from my clients themselves by the problems that they bring to me and what they're trying to solve. They challenge me also, right? A good client will also challenge me is, why do you do that? Why are you thinking this way? And it makes me come up with a different way to explain something that I may have not imparted in the first try, so to speak. So through those different iterations of trying to help connect things for people that may not be using the same language of finance or operations or business development or marketing, finding other ways to come up with analogies is what generates the foundation for what I'd like to write about.
Yeah. See, that right there is exactly why I would want to work with someone like you, is that you don't mind being challenged. You know that you don't know everything, and it's going to cause you to kind of learn yourself, right? And then maybe explain something in a different way. And I think that is so key to being successful, right, in anything in life, but especially business. Being able to learn and to develop and grow. And it's exactly what you're talking about with your clients. Like their business is growing and developing. So you need to make changes to your processes and your policies in order to move forward.
Yes.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. As I grow, I come from let's say a larger, medium-sized business perspective, and then going back down to, let's say, being a solopreneur and not all the challenges that are associated with a big business on a day-to-day basis. I come from that sort of perspective. Now I have to relearn what it's like to be a solopreneur, right? And a solopreneur's challenges are different than a person's big business challenges. And not only that, the way that you solve a big person's big business challenges are going to be different than a solopreneur's, because you have more resources on the big business than you do on the smaller business. So how to make things efficient or pare away things that are not necessary that we're trying to emulate as a big business. So it's sorting through those things. And I don't know everything on all of those things either. And you're always going to know more about your business than me. I'm just going to be able to give you linkages that we should be working with that are common, right, to start from.
Yeah, that's great, Sean. So now as part of the show, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of bring up anything that maybe I haven't asked you. And while you're kind of thinking on that, because we went in a lot of different directions, and talked about a lot of different great things that you're doing and experiences that you have. Let me ask you a couple other questions that hopefully aren't stumpers themselves, but growing up, what did you want to be? Like, what was your dream job?
Growing up, I wanted to be an airline pilot. I really did. I thought that airplanes were the most amazing things in the world. It wasn't even music that was my earliest, I guess, aspirations, right? So that's what I think that as a kid, that's what I wanted to grow up and be.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody. I wanted to fly too. I wanted to do helicopter and like naval SEAL insertion, but I didn't have 20/20 vision and they weren't accepting the eye thing, so I did not go into the armed forces. But that's awesome. I think that's cool. What about like, okay, this might be another hard question for you because of music, but like, was there a favorite band that you had like that you wanted to be, growing up? Because I know you were going to the
No, the
music
favorite
industry.
bands. No, see, the favorite bands always changed as I was growing up and as my life changed, right? And the experiences that I was having. But I think that when I very, very first started out listening to music, it was the band Styx. I don't know, something about Styx really, Tommy Shaw as a guitar player, just the band, the sound, everything was great. As I progressed through college and things like the Grateful Dead and jam music came on board, and then jazz started after I left college, and I wanted to have some of those talents and things like that. So it always changes and evolves. The band that we wound up becoming really was a sort of an amalgam of all the different things that we wanted to be, with the idea of trying to make it as a commercial success, right? So yeah, I think it changed a lot. I would have liked to have been in any one of those bands or any one of those jazz style musicians that were the talents that were just beyond my reach and the amount of time that I was willing to practice for.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. Styx was great. And everything you were mentioning, I love those bands. I'm kind of like you, a little eclectic, right, with all my taste and learning new bands and new tastes as I go forward too.
Yeah, you have to, as a musician, you have to have wide ears. If you can't, then you're not really.
I use musician as a very, very loose term when I refer to what I do. I call it dabbling. I dabble in guitar. I'm more of a singer than a guitarist, but so I'll ask you one more of those kinds of questions, then we'll circle back to that what else do people need to know about SLC Advisory Group? And that is growing up or even now, like who's the person that really just inspires you or inspired you?
Oh my God. People that inspire me, there's so many. I mean, there are literally business associates that inspire me. There are friends, colleagues. There are people in the public world that inspire me. It's just anybody who's balancing reality, like the realities of life, with success, right? And not being toxically positive or depressingly pragmatic, right? Those are the people that inspire me. They have a good balance between the two.
Okay, great. So you get inspiration from a lot of different locations. I think that's a great theme I'm seeing here too.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome, Sean. So So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to highlight?
No, I think that there's a lot of interesting things happening in business right now, and the world of artificial intelligence is certainly interesting as far as what we can do with both automation, as well as automating actual physical activity, as well as automating now what would be cerebral activity, right? And the question is, what do we do with that now? How do we use these tools? And as I look around for inspiration, I guess, in these areas, who are good examples of people using these tools properly? I think that's going to be the next thing that all businesses need to be looking at is, are we relying too much? What are we losing because of these artificial intelligence tools? And what are we gaining? And then start separating, how do we now better ourselves as businesses, and how do we use them to make the environments for which we're doing business in better for the people that we are employing?
Awesome. I have no doubt that you're going to be right in the thick of that and trying to help your clients or help your clients, not even trying, you're going to help your clients do just that, accomplish what they need to accomplish. And if you have to learn AI while you're doing it, I think you're going to do it. So, well, thanks, Sean, for being on the show. We'll have John's connections and notes and all the information on how to get in contact with him in the show notes for sure. But thank you, Sean. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Nick.
All right. Well, I'm your host, Nick Colesale, and joining me again was Sean Lewis of SLC Advising Group.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific 2 and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.